Hi there. It's Clyde. I'm really glad you're here with me tonight. I've been wandering again, the way I always seem to do, and somehow I ended up in a quiet stretch of countryside where the grass grows tall enough to brush your knees, and where a rather relaxed turkey has decided I'm worth tolerating for a little while. Before we get too far into this gentle adventure, and I promise you it will be gentle, go ahead and tap the like button so you don't forget later, and if you want to drift off with me on more of these beautifully uneventful travels, make sure to subscribe. That way, all of my boring adventures will be waiting for you in the playlist anytime you need to rest. And if you ever want a personalized sleepy story, whispered or spoken just for you, becoming a channel member helps support the journey, and it unlocks that cozy little perk too. All right, let's settle in. Let's take a slow breath, in and out, and follow this turkey for a while, just for a while. The first thing I notice about the turkey, besides the fact that it seems entirely unimpressed by my presence, is that it walks with the slow confidence of someone who has absolutely nowhere to be. And honestly, that suits me just fine. The sky is warming into a soft peach color, the sort that makes the world feel quieter, like someone is slowly turning down the volume on everything except the crickets. The air smells faintly of dried grass and something a little earthy, maybe damp leaves, or possibly a patch of mushrooms. I'm not too sure I keep meaning to learn more about mushrooms, but every time I pick one up, I think about how half of them are delicious and the other half want to kill you, and that's enough to make a person cautious. The turkey doesn't care about mushrooms at all. It just keeps plodding along, occasionally stopping to tilt its head as if I might suddenly reveal some interesting secret. I don't. Mostly I just apologize quietly for stepping on a stick too loudly. We're somewhere between late summer and early autumn. That edge of the year where things feel like they're shifting. A few leaves are starting to betray the season, turning yellow at the tips. Somewhere far off, I hear a wagon creaking, probably carrying late harvest goods toward town. Wheat or apples or maybe something that spills easily like lentils. Lentils always feel like they're plotting an escape. I reach down and brush my fingers over a tall stalk of grass, and it leaves a faint dusting of pollen on my hand. The turkey pauses and stares at me. Not with judgment exactly. More like curiosity wrapped in boredom. The kind of look someone gives you when they're trying to decide if you're worth paying attention to, but only barely. Honestly, that's fair. I clear my throat softly, and the turkey takes this as a sign to keep walking. Slightly faster now, as though it suddenly remembered an appointment it didn't want to be late to. I decide to follow. Not closely, of course. You never want to crowd a turkey. They're surprisingly proud birds, and historically, wild turkeys were admired for their sharp eyesight and strong territorial instincts. Benjamin Franklin even preferred them over the bald eagle, which is a fun thing to think about when you're trailing behind one that is currently investigating a clump of weeds with great seriousness. As we wander forward, I spot a rusted horseshoe half buried in the dirt. I pick it up, brushing soil away with my thumb. It's old, maybe from a farm horse that used to plow these fields. I imagine a farmer, broad-shouldered and tired, walking behind the plow while the horse snorts clouds of warm breath into morning air. The turkey gobbles once, loudly, as if reminding me that this is its walk, not a historical reenactment. I apologize again. It ignores me, which is becoming a theme. Farther ahead, the path widens slightly into a clearing. At the edge of it sits a crooked little fence made from uneven wooden stakes. Some of them lean like they're trying to fall asleep standing up. There's a single red feather stuck in one of the joints, probably from the turkey itself. Although I don't mention this out loud, I don't want to damage its confidence. The turkey steps into the clearing, looks around slowly, and then, for absolutely no discernible reason, turns left. Just left. No thought, no hesitation. Just the whimsical decision-making of a creature who operates entirely on instinct and mild confusion. I admire that. I follow. The wind picks up just a little, brushing the edges of my cloak. It carries the faintest trace of wood smoke from some distant cabin or hearth. Maybe someone is preparing supper. Or maybe someone simply forgot they had a fire going. It happens more often than you'd think. As I walk, the tall grasses whisper against my legs, and I watch the turkey's rhythmic bobbing head. There's something hypnotic about it. Something steady and grounding, like the ticking of a soft clock. For a long moment, it feels like we're the only two living things in the whole field. The turkey seems comfortable with that. And honestly, so am I. The turkey's pace slows, which is impressive, considering it wasn't exactly speedy to begin with. It drifts right into a narrow path, worn down by hooves or boots, or maybe just persistent rabbits with strong opinions about walking lanes. I'm not sure rabbits care that much about infrastructure, but these might. I follow the turkey as it wanders toward the tree line, and the air shifts the moment we step into the shade. It's cooler here. Quieter, too. That soft kind of quiet where even the wind gets thoughtful. The turkey stops by a fallen branch and pecks at absolutely nothing. Truly nothing. I lean slightly, trying to see what it sees, but I'm convinced there's not even a bug there. The turkey, however, is deeply invested in the empty spot on the wood, as though it's reading tiny turkey-sized inscriptions from long-lost civilizations. While it studies its invisible discovery, I notice something odd beside the branch. A single wooden wheel, probably from a child's toy cart. It's cracked, one edge splintered, the paint mostly worn off except for a stubborn blue stripe. I pick it up and turn it over in my hand. Someone's kid must have been playing out here years ago, running around with a little cart filled with stones or imaginary treasure. Maybe they dropped it and never realized. Maybe they noticed and decided to claim it fell victim to a dragon attack. Which, honestly, is a much better story. The turkey finishes inspecting its imaginary artifact and strolls onward, almost bumping into my leg on purpose. I take this as a sign that it has forgiven my curiosity. There's a faint sound to the west. Rhythmic, steady. I pause and listen. Horses. Not racing, just traveling. A wagon, maybe. This is around the time when people would have been hauling late-season harvests, preparing for winter. Some families sold excess to neighbors. Some traded. Some kept everything and simply hoped the cold months would go easy on them. The turkey, however, cares nothing for historical context. It wiggles through a cluster of shrubs and emerges with a leaf stuck to its tail. An extremely small leaf. The kind that doesn't look dramatic at all, but still manages to make the turkey look mildly embarrassed. I pretend not to notice. It pretends that I didn't pretend. We continue. After a few minutes of walking, the turkey pauses near a log that looks suspiciously like a log I've seen before. I squint. Yes, that's the same moss pattern we have circled back to the original clearing. The turkey has taken us on a detour to arrive exactly where we started. It looks at me with great seriousness, as if presenting this return as a profound lesson in patience, or perspective, or the cyclical nature of the universe, or maybe it simply forgot where it was going and hoped I wouldn't notice. I nod politely, pretending I understand the message. The turkey accepts this with dignity. A breeze shifts the tall grass, a slow shimmering wave. Somewhere above us, a hawk circles lazily, but it's far too high to care about either of us. A distant dog barks once. The turkey does not acknowledge it. We stand there together in mutual stillness. Then, with the solemn grace of a creature who has made a decision of great import, the turkey takes one step forward and resumes walking. Not quickly, not purposefully, but with the unmistakable energy of a being who has decided, quite firmly, that the detour is now complete. And so, naturally, I follow. The turkey and I continue along the path at our trademark pace. Slow, slower, and why are we even measuring time? Slow. The sky has cooled into a soft lavender color now. That in-between shade that makes everything feel a little dreamlike, as if the world is stretching its arms and settling in. The turkey seems inspired by this and begins walking with what I can only describe as contemplative wobbling. A thoughtful strut, if you will. We're nearing the edge of a farm. I can tell because the faint smell of earth has shifted into something richer, freshly turned soil mixed with root vegetables. Someone must have been harvesting earlier. Maybe carrots or parsnips, or those long white radishes that always look suspiciously like they want to be used as drumsticks. The turkey halts. Ahead, a man appears on the dirt path, carrying a woven basket filled entirely, and I mean entirely, with turnips. Stacked to the top. A little precariously one wrong tilt, and this could turn into an unexpected turnip avalanche. He's older, maybe in his late 50s, with a short gray beard and a brown cap that's determined to slide off his head at any moment. His clothes look patched but well cared for, the way people in earlier centuries often treated their garments, as if each one had its own quiet story stitched into the seams. He doesn't seem surprised to see me, but he is surprised to see the turkey. The turkey, on the other hand, acts like the man is another mildly interesting tree. The man shifts his basket up onto his hip. Well, attempts to. One turnip escapes and plops onto the dirt with a soft thud. He sighs the sigh of a man who has picked up many turnips today. I kneel and hand it back to him. He nods in thanks and says, "Some critters follow the smell of grain. Some follow the smell of berries. Yours follows the smell of, well, I'm not sure what." I glance at the turkey. The turkey glances at the turnips. For a moment, I brace myself for chaos, a turkey-turnip incident of some kind. But the bird simply looks away with the indifference of royalty. Apparently, turnips are beneath its culinary standards. The man chuckles. Well, that settles that. We stand there in quiet for a bit, not talking, not hurrying, just breathing the same slow air. I notice a wooden spoon sticking out of the man's back pocket, a large one, the kind people use for stirring big pots over open fires. I wonder what he's cooking tonight. Something hearty, probably. A stew, maybe a mash, turnip mash. Though I suppose if you have this many turnips, pretty much everything becomes turnip-based by default. He adjusts the basket again, less precariously this time, and nods toward the turkey. "Strange companion you've got." I smile. "I think he's leading the way." The man laughs softly. Not at me, but with understanding. People back then depended on animals for weather signs, seasonal rhythms, knowing when to plant or harvest. Maybe following a turkey isn't that strange at all, or maybe it is, and that's fine too. The turkey lets out a single gobble, a decisive one, as if announcing it is now time to continue. The man gives me a friendly wave and heads down the opposite side of the path, turnips rattling gently in his basket. The turkey steps forward with renewed purpose, or as close to purpose as a turkey can get. And I fall into step behind it, the tall grass brushing softly against my legs again. The air feels cooler now, quieter, but not lonely. Just peacefully uneventful, and that's more than enough. The turkey and I continue our deliberate drift along the narrow path, and the evening air settles into that soft, cool stillness that makes every sound a little crisper. The crickets have started their nightly orchestra. Not loudly, just enough to add texture. Like someone lightly shaking a bag of rice from very far away. We're moving along quietly when I notice something new in the distance. A shape. A whitish shape. A waddling shape. I blink. It is, unmistakably, a goose. A lone goose, standing proudly in the path like it owns the place, which, to be fair, is how most geese operate. Geese don't ask permission, they simply are. They're like the aristocrats of the barnyard. If the turkey is a mild philosopher, the goose is a retired general who still expects everyone to salute. The turkey stops. The goose stops. They look at each other like rivals in a very slow-moving duel. I'm not entirely sure which one would win in a disagreement, but the turkey seems unwilling to find out. It takes one cautious step backward. The goose responds by lifting its head higher, as if to say, "Yes, that's right." I consider stepping in, diplomatically of course, but I'm not fully fluent in goose politics. Instead, I crouch down a bit and look at the bird. "Evening," I say softly. The goose blinks at me, then at the turkey, then at me again. Out of nowhere, it lets out a soft honk. Not an angry honk, more like the sigh of someone who has just remembered they left bread rising back at home. Without further ceremony, the goose waddles off to the side of the path, completely disinterested in continuing the standoff. It stops near a patch of clover and begins nibbling with fierce concentration. The turkey, emboldened by the goose's retreat, puffs itself up ever so slightly, but only after the goose is no longer looking. A very strategic display of confidence. We walk on, passing the goose, who does not acknowledge our existence. Just beyond the goose, I spot a small wooden sign half hidden in the tall grass. It's old and weathered, the lettering faded almost entirely, but I can just barely make out a single word. M-I-L-K. It points toward a tiny dirt track veering off to the left. Probably someone's dairy farm, though I don't see any cows from here. Maybe they're further out, or maybe it was once a dairy farm and now it's just a sign that nobody bothered to remove. The quiet ghost of commerce past. The turkey gives the sign one indifferent glance and continues straight ahead. The goose honks once, softly, as if giving us its blessing. For several minutes, we walk without needing to make decisions. The path opens into a wide stretch of grass, dotted with little white flowers, possibly wild chamomile. I brush my hand over a cluster and inhale the faint, sweet scent. It makes the whole field feel calmer, like nature's version of a long sigh. The turkey pauses again, this time to scratch the ground with one foot. I take the moment to sit on a smooth rock at the side of the path. A perfectly sized rock, really the kind that looks like it has been waiting specifically for someone to sit on it. As I settle, I spot something shiny in the grass beside me. I lean down and pick it up. A metal button, round, copper-colored, worn from use. Perhaps from a coat, maybe from a soldier's uniform. Buttons travel further than people think. They pop off during marches, fall and get buried, resurfacing years later to surprise confused wanderers like me. I turn it in my fingers, feeling its warmth from the day's leftover sun. The turkey emits a low gobble. Not urgent, just a reminder that sitting is a temporary arrangement. It shakes its feathers and resumes its slow journey. I pocket the button. I stand. I follow the turkey again. Behind us, the goose honks one more time as if marking the end of its cameo. The sky deepens into soft blues and purples. Fireflies flicker to life in the distance, dots of warm gold floating in the dim. Everything feels unhurried, simple, and easy. And somehow, that's exactly right. The turkey leads me into a stretch of field where the tall grass parts just enough to make a natural walkway. The light has shifted into that deepening blue moment right before darkness truly settles. A kind of soft velvet glow that makes everything feel quieter, slower, and somehow closer. The turkey pauses and gives a small shake of its feathers, and I swear it looks pleased with itself, as though guiding me here was its master plan all along. That's when I notice them. Fireflies. Little golden lanterns blinking on and off in the dim, floating slowly above the grass. Some drift lazily, others hover with strange purpose, like they're inspecting the world one tiny patch at a time. A few glow brighter with each flicker, as if warming up their lights for the night shift. The turkey seems unimpressed, but I stop and stare for a moment, watching the warm lights flicker around us. It feels like the kind of moment you're supposed to whisper in, even though no one said so. Just then, the turkey does something unexpected. It pecks at something in the grass and pulls up a hat. Not a fancy hat. More like the kind a traveling peddler might wear. It's a floppy, brownish cap, slightly torn at the brim, the fabric softened from years of use. The turkey shakes it once, as if checking for crumbs, and then drops it beside me with great ceremony. I tilt my head. Is this a gift? The turkey looks at me, then at the hat, then at me again. It's impossible to tell what it means, but I accept the offering anyway, gently picking it up. The lining is surprisingly intact. There's even a faint smell of cloves, which is either from the original owner or from something very odd buried in the grass. I fold it and tuck it under my arm for safekeeping. A cricket chirps loudly behind us, a sharp, insistent sound, almost as if it's scolding us for disturbing its personal evening recital. It pauses, chirps again, louder this time. The turkey turns toward the cricket and makes a sound that can only be described as a gobble of profound disapproval. The cricket responds by chirping even louder, as though challenging the turkey to some kind of musical duel. I take a step back. Nature's disagreements are best watched from a safe distance. After several tense seconds, the cricket finally quiets, perhaps deciding that a turkey with opinions is not worth the trouble. The turkey, looking deeply satisfied with this victory, resumes walking with renewed authority, chest slightly puffed, the unmistakable posture of someone who has won an argument and is ready to move on. We follow the path deeper into the field, where the fireflies form drifting ribbons of golden light. One lands on the turkey's back for a moment, glowing softly like a misplaced star the turkey doesn't notice. Or perhaps it pretends not to. I brush my fingers through a cluster of wildflowers as we pass. Little white blossoms with tiny yellow centers, soft and delicate. They remind me of meadow tea, the kind villagers used to make by drying the petals and steeping them with honey and warm milk. The air smells faintly of damp earth, crushed leaves and summer fading out. A small breeze pushes through the grass. The turkey stops, turns, and looks at me with the same expression it has given me all day, equal parts curiosity and resignation. As if to say, all right, let's see what's next. And so, we do. We walk onward into the deepening blue, surrounded by floating lights, the lost hat under my arm, and the faint memory of a cricket with too many opinions. The turkey and I drift deeper into the field as the evening settles into that soft, velvety darkness that's not quite night, but close enough that the world feels smaller, calmer, and wrapped in a blue hush. The fireflies are fewer now, they're spaced farther apart, like tiny lighthouses flickering across an ocean of tall grass. We follow a narrow bend in the path, where the grass parts as though the turkey has walked here before. Which wouldn't surprise me. Turkeys feel like creatures who keep detailed mental maps but refuse to share them. We reach a slight rise in the ground, and that's when I notice a warm, flickering glow up ahead. Not fireflies, not moonlight, a lantern hanging from a wooden post. The turkey halts, tilts its head at the lantern as if weighing whether this development is interesting or simply annoying. I take a few steps closer. At the base of the post sits a young woman, maybe in her early 20s, with her skirts gathered carefully around her knees. She's seated on a small crate, holding a half-dipped taper candle. There's a clay pot of warm beeswax beside her, set over a tiny ember-filled pan. She gives the candle a twirl, checking the smoothness of the drying wax. She glances up when she notices us, and smiles, not startled but amused. "Well," she says, lifting the candle, "you two look like you've been traveling a while." I blink. I wasn't expecting conversation at this hour. The turkey takes a single slow step toward her, and then stops, apparently unsure whether she is friend, foe, or something irrelevant like a shrub. The young woman looks down at the turkey and laughs softly. My father says turkeys always walk like they're late for an appointment they don't actually want to attend. I look at the turkey. The turkey looks at me. I decide not to translate. She motions to the lantern above her. I'm making candles for the harvest market tomorrow. People like buying fresh ones before the evenings get cold. Wax dries quickest at this time of day. I nod, and the scent of warm honey drifts up from the beeswax. Thick, sweet, comforting. It smells like autumn kitchens and old workshops and festivals where people gather with spiced cider and good intentions. A breeze moves through and the flame in the lantern flickers sideways. The girl steadies the candle in her hand so it doesn't drip unevenly. She notices the hat tucked under my arm. "Lose something?" she asks. I hold it out a little. I think the turkey found it. She studies it, tilts her head. It looks like Jacob Alder's hat. He's always dropping things. A hat one day, a loaf of bread the next. My mother says if he keeps losing food, the whole village will end up feeding him involuntarily. The turkey gobbles once, very softly. An opinion, perhaps. The girl dips the candle one final time and hooks it onto a wooden rack beside her. There must be 20 or 30 candles hanging there already, all lined up neatly, drying into long ivory tapers. Her hands are coated lightly in dried wax. Her sleeves are rolled to her elbows. There are small flecks of wax on the crate she sits on. "Heading toward the village?" she asks. I shrug. I'm mostly following him. I gesture to the turkey. She nods like this is the most reasonable thing she's ever heard. Well, the path splits just a bit ahead. Right leads toward the village. Left leads toward the mill pond. She wipes her hands on a cloth. Watch for mud if you go left. A cart got stuck there last week and the wheel ruts haven't flattened out yet. The turkey seems to absorb this information with great seriousness. Or maybe it's thinking about bugs. Hard to tell. The girl picks up another bare wick, dips it into the pot of warm wax, and glances up once more. You two have a peaceful night. The lantern flickers. The fireflies blink. The turkey gives a dignified little nod. I return it. And as the path curves ahead, the turkey walks forward decisively. Not left, not right, but straight down the center, as if refusing to commit to either destination until absolutely necessary. So I fall into step behind it once more. Just wandering, just drifting, just letting the world unfold at its own slow, gentle pace. The turkey and I continue along the narrowing path. The lantern glow behind us fading into a warm memory. The air has cooled enough that each breath feels a little crisper, like the world is slowly putting itself to bed. The path curves gently to the left. Not sharply, just enough that the grass leans differently here. I suspect this is the direction the candlemaker's daughter mentioned, the one that leads toward the mill pond. Even though the turkey didn't officially choose left earlier, it now walks left with such casual confidence that I'm starting to think it planned this all along and simply wanted plausible deniability. We walk a bit farther, and the sound reaches us before the sight does. A soft, slow splash. Drip. Splash. Not hurried. Not rhythmic. Just water behaving exactly as it pleases. The trees open, and there it is. A small mill pond nestled at the bottom of a shallow slope, with a weathered wooden water wheel attached to a stone mill house. The water wheel turns so lazily I'm surprised it hasn't just decided to take the night off. Each paddle dips into the pond with a gentle slap, sending tiny ripples outward like someone tapping their fingers on a table. The turkey stops at the edge of the pond, stares at the water wheel, and gives a soft gobble that sounds suspiciously like judgment. I sit on a nearby stump, an old, wide one, smoothed by years of weather, as though countless wanderers before me have also taken a break here. The stump is cool, but not uncomfortable, and it gives me a moment to let the stillness settle. A frog croaks somewhere to our right, a deep, echoing sound, like the frog has important thoughts about the state of the world. Then another frog joins in, a higher, more enthusiastic croak, creating a surprisingly spirited duet for such tiny creatures. The turkey tilts its head toward the pond, then toward the frogs, then back at the pond. I can't tell if it's contemplating a drink or contemplating the meaning of life. The surface of the mill pond reflects the sky's deepening blues and faint moon glow. A few fireflies hover around the reeds, their lights glowing like tiny lanterns misplaced by fairies in a hurry. Near the mill house door, leaning against the wall, is a wooden wheelbarrow, empty, except for a single wooden spoon lying in the bottom. Another spoon, 2 spoons in one evening. That's a pattern I'm choosing to ignore for now. The turkey suddenly takes a few quick steps toward the water and pecks at something floating near the bank. I move closer to see. A small piece of driftwood, carved, poorly but charmingly, into the shape of a fish. Maybe a child made it. Maybe an adult made it and then pretended a child did. Because the results were enthusiastic but questionable. The turkey nudges it once, decides it isn't food, and walks away with the air of someone who has been mildly inconvenienced. I pick up the little carved fish and turn it in my hands. It's simple, smooth in a few places from drifting, worn in others from being held or dropped or stepped on. The belly has faint score marks, like someone tried to add scales with a dull blade. I slip it gently into my pocket next to the metal button. A growing collection of lost things that somehow feel like they belong exactly where they end up. The turkey begins to walk again, this time following the curve of the pond rather than the path. I stand, brushing off my cloak, and follow it as it leads us behind the slow-turning water wheel. The wheel creaks once, a long, tired sound, like an old door debating whether to open, and then everything grows quiet again. Soft, unrushed, wrapped in the gentle murmur of the pond. The turkey pauses, glances at the water, and gives a long, contemplative blink. It seems satisfied, and so we continue. The turkey and I continue past the mill pond, following a narrow footpath that winds along the water's edge before climbing gently upward. The night has settled now. Fully, unmistakably. But it's the kind of night that isn't heavy or dark or lonely. It's soft, like a blanket that's been warmed by the last bit of sunlight. The path leads us to a small wooden bridge, barely wide enough for one person at a time. It arches gently over a slow-moving stretch of the stream that feeds the pond. The beams creak under my weight, a friendly sort of creak, like the bridge is saying, "Oh, a visitor. It's been a while." The moon hangs low over the treetops, silver and round, reflected in the water below like a coin dropped into a fountain. And on the far side of the bridge sits a man. At least, I think it's a man. All I can see at first is a silhouette leaning back on his elbows, face tilted toward the sky. As I get closer, I realize he's lying on the cool grass beside the bridge, legs stretched out, boots crossed at the ankles. His cloak is spread beneath him like a blanket, and he's utterly still except for the occasional lift of his chin. The turkey pauses, observing him with a deeply suspicious scrutiny only a turkey can manage. The man doesn't look at us right away. He keeps his eyes on the sky and says, in a voice barely louder than a whisper, 112. I stop. Sorry. He lowers his head slightly, noticing us for the first time. His eyes are kind, tired but kind, with that same softness people have when they've been watching the night for a while. "Oh," he says with a gentle laugh, "not you, the stars, I'm counting them." The turkey lets out a single unimpressed gobble. The man gestures to the sky. See? Right above the tree line, there's a cluster that wasn't visible last night. That's where the new ones always appear. I tilt my head, but the stars look the same to me. Shimmering, steady, familiar. Do they move? I ask. He shrugs lightly. Sometimes. Or maybe I'm the one moving and they're not. Hard to tell. The turkey steps forward onto the bridge, pecking once at a plank as if testing its integrity. Satisfied, it walks to the middle and stares down at its own reflection rippling in the stream. I sit down on the grass near the man, leaving space between us. He doesn't seem bothered by our arrival. In fact, he sits up a little straighter, brushing a leaf from his sleeve. I come here most nights after the mill stops, he says. The wheels too loud during the day, too much clattering and splashing. Hard to think. He taps a finger gently on his knee, almost in rhythm with the slow turning of the mill wheel behind us, far enough away that it's only a faint whisper now. What are you thinking about? I ask. He smiles. Everything and nothing. Isn't that what people do at night? The turkey gobbles softly again. I'm not sure if it agrees or disagrees. The man picks up a small pouch beside him and shakes it once. It jangles faintly. He opens it and pulls out a single pebble, smooth, round, pale blue in the moonlight. For every star I count, he says, I pick up a pebble, and when the bag is full, I start over. I lean closer to look. The bag is maybe a quarter full. That seems like a long project, I say. He laughs again, quietly. That's the point. Long things help the mind slow down. You can't hurry something you can't finish. The turkey steps off the bridge now, making its slow, rhythmic walk toward us, its feathers catching hints of silver from the moon. The man watches it with interest. Is that your companion? He asks. I think I'm its companion, I say. He nods approvingly. Animals choose us more often than we choose them. He lies back again, hands folded on his stomach, gazing up at the sky. 113, he murmurs. I look up too. For a moment, the world is still. Just the stars, the soft rustling of grass, the slow creak of the water wheel far behind us, and the turkey gently scratching at the dirt near my boot. Time stretches, then softens, then curls into a comfortable shape. The man sighs contentedly. If you follow this path a little farther, you'll come to the old orchard. Most of the trees are gone now, but the air still smells sweet there. The turkey perks up at this, apparently a fan of orchards. I stand and dust off my cloak. Thank you, I say. He waves a hand lazily without sitting up. Enjoy the night, it's a good one. The turkey begins walking again, slow and sure, toward the orchard path. I follow, and the man's voice drifts after us, soft and steady. 114. The turkey and I walk on, leaving the quiet bridge behind. The night has settled into a cool, steady rhythm. Not cold, just enough that the breeze feels like a gentle hand smoothing the air. The moon casts a pale glow that softens everything into shades of blue and silver. Ahead, the path widens, and the smell reaches us before the sight does. Apples. Not fresh ones, not the sharp, crisp scent of newly picked fruit, but the softened, sweet smell of apples that have been lying in the grass a while. The kind that turn a little warm and fragrant as they settle into the earth. A scent that feels like autumn remembering itself. The orchard appears in a slow reveal, a scattering of trees, many bare, others leaning like old friends who refuse to leave the party even after their branches no longer bother with leaves. The turkey steps into the fallen apples without hesitation. It gives a single, approving gobble. the sound of a creature who has finally reached a destination it didn't know it wanted. I crouch down and pick up an apple near my boot. It's small, slightly bruised, mottled green and red. Not the shiny kind that people polish for markets, but the real kind, grown crookedly, imperfect, honest. I brush off a bit of dirt and place it gently back among the others. As I stand, I spot an old wooden ladder lying on its side near one of the trees. The rungs are missing here and there, and the whole frame is bent, like someone climbed it one too many times. Maybe a farmer or child once picked apples with it. Maybe someone stood on it to hang lanterns for a harvest gathering decades ago. Now it's just resting, half buried in moss. Beyond a cluster of low branches, I see a wooden crate, empty, cracked, with the faintest outline of faded paint on the side. Maybe once a name or a shop stamp. Now just a ghost of letters. The turkey wanders deeper, pecking occasionally at fallen apples as though trying to decide which ones meet its mysterious criteria. Every so often, it selects one, inspects it, and then walks away from it with the disappointed air of someone who expected more. I walk slowly beneath the branches, letting my fingertips brush the bark. The night is quiet except for the occasional soft plunk of an apple dropping somewhere deeper in the orchard. It's a gentle sound, like the orchard is breathing. Then, faint footsteps, soft, uneven, approaching. From behind one of the gnarled trees comes a man, thin with a patchy beard and hair that looks like it has been tousled by wind for most of his life. He's carrying a small sack slung over one shoulder. He stops when he sees us, but not out of fear, more like he's deciding whether or not to smile. Eventually, he does. "You're out late," he says. I glance at the turkey, following him. The man nods like this explains everything. "Good guide, then." I shrug. "Debatable." He laughs under his breath. A light, papery laugh that matches his appearance. He adjusts the sack on his shoulder, and I notice it's filled with apples, imperfect ones. Bruised ones, the ones nobody picks first. "Windfalls," he explains simply. "The best ones for cider." His eyes shine a bit when he says the word cider, the way people do when they talk about something that brings them real, uncomplicated joy. He pulls a small apple from the sack and offers it to me. "For the walk." I take it with gratitude, feeling its cool weight in my palm. The turkey steps forward and stares up at the man with intense suspicion. The man looks down at it. "Well, hello to you too," he says. The turkey blinks once, decisively. The man turns back to me. "If you keep following this path," he says, pointing with the apple, "you'll reach the ridge. Beautiful view of the valley moon's bright tonight. Worth seeing." He gives a small wave, then heads the opposite direction, disappearing between the crooked trees as quietly as he arrived. I look at the apple he gave me, pale in the moonlight, a little rough around the edges. It smells faintly sweet. The turkey nudges my boot and then continues walking through the orchard, weaving between the trees like it's navigating a city it knows by heart. I slip the apple into my pocket beside the carved fish and the metal button. All these small things, pieces of a wandering night, resting together quietly. As we leave the orchard, the scent of apples fades behind us, replaced once again by cool night air and tall grass shifting gently in the breeze. The turkey walks ahead with purpose, and I follow, feeling the world stretch open into the quiet. The turkey leads me out of the orchard and onto a gentle incline, the kind that doesn't appear steep until you're halfway up and realize you've been walking at an optimistic angle for quite some time. The path narrows again, lined by knee-high grasses that sway in the breeze, creating a soft shushing sound. The moon hangs above us, round and bright, lighting the ridge like a lantern someone forgot to switch off. The turkey keeps a steady pace, slow, patient, purposeful. or at least purposeful adjacent. It's possible its purpose is simply forward. As we climb, the air cools even more, and the world behind us grows darker and blurrier until only outlines remain. The orchard, the mill pond, the bridge, the lantern where the candle maker worked, all softened into shapes that feel like memories already. At the top of the ridge, the turkey stops. Just stops. Completely. I step beside it, and suddenly I understand why. The whole valley is spread out below us, shimmering in moonlight, dotted with tiny reflections of water, fireflies flickering like faraway campfires, and the faint suggestion of distant cottages tucked into shadow. The slow creak of the mill wheel carries up the ridge in long, lazy sighs. It's quiet, wide, endless, and small at the same time. The turkey looks out over the valley as if presenting it to me, like a tour guide who's been waiting all night for this moment. I let the silence stretch. The night wraps around us like a cool blanket. Here and there, I spot the things we passed. The candle's lantern flicker, the bridge's pale railing, the orchard trees bowing under memories. Even the path we took looks gentler from here, softened by distance. The turkey gives a soft, low sound. Not quite a gobble, not quite anything else. Almost content. I sink down onto the grass and sit cross-legged, letting the ground cool my palms. The breeze brushes over us, carrying the faint scent of apples and water and old wood. For a long moment, neither of us moves. And then I feel it. That familiar warmth in my pocket. That faint, steady thrum like a heartbeat wrapped in humming light. The stone. Quiet until now. Patient. Warm. And ready. I take it out slowly, letting the moonlight touch its smooth surface. It glows faintly, the way embers glow long after the fire fades. It doesn't rush, doesn't pulse urgently. It simply waits. The turkey watches with a level of curiosity that borders on philosophical. I smile at it. "Thank you," I say softly. Not because it understands the words, though maybe it does in its own turkey way, but because it guided me, step by step, through a night that asked nothing of me except to walk slowly and notice things. I hold the stone in both hands. Its warmth deepens. The turkey turns its head slightly, then looks back out over the valley as if giving me privacy in the least private way possible. The wind shifts, the grass rustles, the world exhales, and the stone's hum grows gentle and sure. My cloak flutters. The ridge glows a little brighter. The night folds around me like a page turning. Slowly, carefully, softly. The turkey lifts one foot, then settles again, like it's settling down to roost. And then, the warmth envelopes me completely. Not sudden, not startling. Just a quiet transition, like stepping into a warm bath or drifting into a long, steady dream. The ridge fades. The orchard, the bridge, the mill pond, the lantern, the fireflies, all dissolving into soft light and memory, carried on the wings of a night that knew exactly how slow to be. And as everything gently dims, the last thing I see is the turkey, standing calmly on the ridge, watching the valley, not in a hurry, and quite certain, I think, that it will continue its walk without me.